Morning, everyone. We'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to get in the room. I think we're looking good, Emma. Nobody in the waiting room? All good.
All good.
So hi, everyone. I'm Tess from Libraries Connected. Thanks for joining us today for this Big Help Out webinar. We've got a few speakers joining us today to talk about how libraries can practically get involved in the Big Help Out from the 7th to the 9th of June. The public launch is actually today, so it's a great time to get on board. We have Jez Hughes from Better Communities here today, who's supporting the Big Help Out and can tell us about the work underway and how libraries can take part. Welcome, Jeremy. I'll hand over to you.
Great, thank you, Tessa, and thank you everybody for joining today. It's, as you say, it's an important day for us because it's the launch of our platform to the public, so people can sign up for the Big Help Out and get the app as of today. And we had a great piece on BBC Breakfast Television this morning and other bits in the media and social media, so an important day for us. Emma, I think we've got some slides, so if we could put those up, then hopefully everybody can see them. And I will take you through just a brief rundown on what the Big Help Out is all about. So, as Tessa says, I'm Jez Hughes. I'm the coordinator of a group called Shaping the Future with Volunteering, which is one of the 3 organisations behind the Big Help Out. I'll come back to who we are in a moment. Just go to the next slide, please. So this just gives you the context, which I'm sure you're all well aware of, that in the pandemic, we saw millions of people volunteering in response to the pandemic. But we've also seen a significant decline in volunteering numbers since, and some of that was happening before the pandemic. But what's interesting is we know that 3.8 million people from the pandemic said that they wanted to volunteer again. And what we are aware of is that they're not always sure how to do it and how to go about getting involved as volunteers. So the Big Help Out objective is to raise awareness of volunteering throughout the UK and make it easy for people to have their first step into volunteering and hopefully go on to be involved on an ongoing basis after that. And this year it's being coordinated along with Volunteers Week. So it's the first week of June is Volunteers Week, and the last 3 days are the Big Help Out. So the idea is that the beginning of the week is particularly about celebrating existing volunteers, and the end of the week you go on to sort of help recruit new volunteers with the Big Help Out. Next slide, please. So these are the 3 partners that are behind the Big Help Out. So Shaping the Future with Volunteering, which is the group that I convene. This is 30 of the largest and best known volunteering charities. It's a sort of almost an A to Z of big charities, from Age UK to Youth Hostels Association. We haven't got anyone beginning with Z yet, but we'll have to work on that. But what's interesting is that the uniting factor for all those charities is that they depend on volunteers for delivering their service and their activity. So all charities have volunteers involved in governance as trustees, often involved in fundraising, but these are all charities that do that, but also deliver their services through volunteers. And they came together because they all recognised, as I was saying in the context of the pandemic, that things needed to be different. I remember one chief exec when we started saying to me, in order to be a local group leader of their charity, you had to give 20 hours a week of your time. So not surprisingly, it was mainly sort of middle-aged, middle-class, often women with disposable income who could afford to become volunteers, and they couldn't, and they were not reaching a much more diverse community that they wanted to reach to. So those charities all came together, and the Big Help Out is our big sort of public initiative to help promote awareness of volunteering. We're partnering with NCVO, which I'm sure you're all aware of, the National Council of Voluntary Organisations, and indeed the sister organisations in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And finally, the Together Coalition, which is a group led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and it's, if you like, the great and the good of media and public service and corporate partners. And they come together to help make people more supportive of community activities. So they started a couple of years ago doing Thank You Day, and then they got involved in the Big Help Out last year and are involved again, driving particularly the media and celebrity involvement this year. Next slide, please, Emma. This just to go through, as I say, for Shaping the Future with Volunteering, these are the member charities of Shaping the Future with Volunteering. So as you see, they're all sort of recognisable names that you will have been heard of. What's interesting is it's a cross-section across all types of charity, and they don't always come together in this way, or very seldom do. So everything from health and care charities to animal charities to children's charities. There's a complete range, countryside charities, environment charities. So it's a really good mix and a really vibrant group. Next slide, please. So this is just explains how the Big Help Out works. The key elements are a media campaign, which is a high profile campaign building up to this national moment of volunteering, 7th and 9th of June, and a digital journey. So that's what we're launching today, is the app and the website where people can showcase opportunities of volunteering. And there's no cost involved to any of the voluntary organisations getting into the Big Help Out. So it's a great opportunity of spreading awareness of your need for volunteers and an opportunity to reach many people who don't normally get in touch. What we can offer is opportunities to take part in an event, complete an action, find an ongoing volunteer role. And the idea is to encourage voluntary organisations, as I say, to put up their information and their opportunities and to get people to pledge to take part in the Big Help Out. Moving on to the next slide, just what we're focusing on this year is really 3 key elements. Oh, what happened there? Did I click on something? Hang on. I've just opened a screen. No, that's right, it's still there. So the 3 key elements are, we want to make sure there's a big scale event like we did last year. So we want to get millions of people involved in volunteering, and I'll come on in a moment to how we did last year. But we want it to be sustainable. We don't want it just a flash in the pan. We don't want people turning up for a one-day activity and then disappearing and never being seen again. So the idea is to convert that one-off volunteering into long-term. And finally, we want to target to reach underrepresented and diverse communities who don't normally get involved in volunteering. So those are the 3 sort of underlying objectives for this year. Next slide, please. And this just shows the types of volunteering that people can get involved in, which I'm sure you're all well aware of. So formal, regular volunteering, formal, irregular volunteering, informal, regular, and informal, irregular. And as you can see, they've all dropped off since the COVID period. And what we're particularly wanting to do is boost particularly that bottom line, which I'm sure for libraries is absolutely key. That we're getting that formal, regular volunteering needs to go up and get more people. And the key is to convert some of those people in the higher lines, particularly the top yellow line, the informal, irregular, and the orange line. We need to get them converting into more formula, regular volunteering. Next slide, please. So this just gives you results of last year. As many of you will be aware, we did the Big Help Out for the first time last year alongside the King's coronation. So we were already planning to do something, and the idea originally was a sort of comic relief version for volunteering. So instead of giving money, you pledged to give time. And we had the BBC almost scheduling it, and then they couldn't get it scheduled in the year before last. And then along came the coronation, and Prince Charles, as was then the becoming king, wanted to make sure that the coronation wasn't just about gold coaches going up and down the Mall and lots of pomp and ceremony, but it was about community support and community engagement. So we agreed to make the bank holiday Monday the Big Help Out Day at the coronation. And this was the amazing results we got. Just to highlight a couple of these figures, 7.2 million people got involved in some way in formal or informal volunteering. That's 30% of the public had heard about the Big Help Out, and 35,000 voluntary organisations posted voluntary opportunities on the website and recruited volunteers. So that's just a few of those statistics to highlight, but it was incredibly successful, attracted a lot of media attention, and really did drive people to get involved in volunteering for the first time. But the sustainability is important. So just move on to the next slide in light of what I was saying a few minutes ago. So what we wanted to do was make sure that it was creating a lasting opportunity. And so we re-surveyed the participants, the volunteer involving organisations, voluntary organisations, 6 months on. And what was encouraging is 17% said they'd recruited permanent long-term volunteers. And nearly half of these, 49%, said they recruited more diverse people than they traditionally had volunteering. So it seems to be working. It seems to be having the result. We go to the next slide. The impact on volunteers themselves is even more impressive. So 80% of those who got involved last year said they'd never been involved in any volunteering before. 40% had not done any volunteering in the past year. 71% actually did what they said they were going to do, and 34% went on to become regular volunteers for the same organisation. So that's really encouraging. So we clearly have something that is reaching the parts, as it were, that other volunteering doesn't reach. Next slide, please. So this is a particular part of what we want to do this year, is reach out to younger volunteers and particularly involve the 27 Know Your Neighbourhood areas as particular areas of focal attention. And we've ended up with 6 of those that we're working with most closely. So the 6 areas that we're really getting an intensive focused campaign around are Blackpool, Bradford, Teesdale in Durham, Great Yarmouth, Wisbech and Medway. And the idea is that we'll work very closely, and we hope that the libraries in each of those areas will get involved. And we're going to do a sort of big uplift, particularly in those areas around media publicity, get the big charities involved in promoting the campaign and really drive it for all it's worth, and then evaluate it. Sorry about the drilling noise in the background. Evaluate it as best we can to make sure we capture the learning for future opportunities. Next slide, please. So this shows that there are some groups that are particularly underrepresented in volunteering. So I think that reinforces what we already said a few minutes ago. Moving on again. And volunteers with disabilities or limiting conditions have seen a drop-off in recent years. So there's a real important need to make sure volunteering is more accessible to people with disabilities. Next slide, please. In terms of the community life survey data, the rate for volunteering seems to track economic capital. So volunteering is more strong in wealthy areas and less strong in more deprived areas. And the distribution of charities is the same. So particularly we want in the Big Help Out to reach and create more voluntary sector engagement and more volunteering in some of those areas where traditionally people haven't been involved. Next slide, please. And younger volunteers is another really important area where we can see that the number of people by age dropping off as people get younger in terms of volunteering. But what's interesting is that from the Big Help Out, we had a big success in reaching younger audiences. If we go to the next slide. So you can see here that we were particularly had a significant chunk of people, 22.5% of those who got involved in the Big Help Out last year were 18 to 34. So we are also managing to reach younger people, and the social media campaign has been really successful, and getting some some influencers and leading lights in social media has been a big success of the campaign last year, and we plan for it to be again this year. Move on again, please. So this is what we're talking about in terms of the media campaign. As a call to action for voluntary organisations to get a good range of activities up there for people to see. We've got a number of thematic and sector launches over the course of the next couple of months. So we did one with faith leaders last week. We've got a sports leader and sports personality launch coming up, and we'll have various others over the course of the next 2 months. The public campaign, as I said earlier, was launched today in terms of people being able to download the app and go to the website and look at volunteering opportunities. And we need you to put your events on that platform in order to people to find what they want to do. There's a partner pack that we can send you the link to, which gives you all the information. And the last one actually is now out of date. So there was a webinar on the 11th of March, but we're way beyond that now. Move on, please. And this is the ways to engage with the digital platform. Is list your events that you've got opportunities for people to do, either one-off events or regular volunteering. What a lot of people did last year, which was really successful, is put on sort of showcase events as part of the Big Help Out. So come to the library, find out what it's like to be a volunteer, test it out, meet some people. So rather than necessarily saying the immediate thing is to sign up to a full commitment, it's really giving people a chance to step through the door and find out what it's like. You can bulk upload opportunities. So if you want to bulk upload regular volunteering opportunities over a period of time, there's an easy way of doing it. And if you have your own management system for volunteering, then we can link the Big Help Out app to your own system. So you don't have to transfer the data all the time. It can automatically do that. So there's a number of ways of doing it, but the key thing is to get involved and put your link on there, set yourself up an account on the Big Help Out app, and enter your details. And I think there's one final slide, please. I'm just promoting volunteering in the communities. As I say, there's the staging special events or ongoing opportunities as well. There's maximizing media profile. We've got a whole machine to give opportunities. So let us know about things you're doing and we'll help promote it. And engage partners. We've got a number of the national charities, as I say, already involved. We've also got some business partners. ASDA is the core sponsor for the whole of the campaign, and they're going to be promoting it and getting their people involved from ASDA stores all over the country. Compare the Market is getting involved. So far, they said they're going to try and involve some meerkats, but we're not quite sure how that's going to work, but we'll wait and see. DPD is another. So there's a number of companies, British Telecom, number of companies all getting involved in backing it. And we've now, last year we had 2,000 businesses saying they wanted to get involved. And this year there's going to be a special site for them to go to, so companies can track and support volunteering by their employees. And I think, Emma, that's it. Could be. Yep. Thank you very much. So I hope that's given you a brief oversight of what's involved in the Big Help Out. It's all down to you, really. So it's a free opportunity. Promote the volunteering you want, reach more people, and hopefully we'll all benefit going forward. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Jez. Yeah, I mean, you've just demonstrated that the campaign really offers a really quick and easy entry process for new volunteers, and it's got the potential to reach new audiences, target underrepresented communities, and then offering the possibility of converting that one-off volunteering into a more sustained interaction. So that's wonderful. Really fits in with what libraries are doing. Thank you. So next up, I'd like to introduce Emma Warwick from Barrow Library, who's going to share some ideas of how she plans to engage with the Big Lunch and the Big Help Out. Alongside this, while she's talking, it would be great if you could share your ideas and plans for getting involved in the chat. So just for inspiration, but I'll hand over to you now, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to have a talk today with you all. I am a LOPO at Barrow Library in Barrow-in-Furness in Cumbria, so I'm an outreach officer, and then I also do the coordination for the volunteers for our Know Your Neighbourhood project as well. So the Know Your Neighbourhood project is all about kind of tackling social isolation. It's about tackling loneliness in the community, and it's about opening up our kind of library service so that people can come in and take part in that service as well. So we have a lot of people coming and taking part with our activities, our events, our groups, things like that. Yeah, and they come along and they just kind of get involved, and it's been going really well so far. We've had some really lovely feedback, but when this came across, kind of, this came to me and I was like, actually, this would be a really great way of getting out into the community even more. And we're going to, instead of doing the Big Help Out, but we're going to link it with that, we're going to do the Big Lunch. So it's going to be a collaboration between us, which is Love Barrow Libraries. We've got Furnace for You, who have also got Know Your Neighbourhood funding, and Youth Ability. And this one's going to be on Saturday, the 1st of June. And it has the same sort of aims as both the Big Lunch, obviously, and the Big Help Out. So it's just about bringing that community together. So we wanted to provide a space in the summer where we can have lots of activities going on, lots of information and stalls. We're going to have representatives from our businesses across Barrow with all of their information about their services, and we wanted to also kind of put on food as well to go alongside the Big Lunch, and we all love free food, so it's a great way of getting people involved, and also just getting people through the door as well, and then being able to engage with them, because I find sometimes that the word sometimes like volunteering can be a little bit kind of off-putting, or a little bit like, oh, I don't know if that's for me. Whereas like the Big Lunch or say the Big Help Out, it doesn't have that kind of like gravitas on it. So you're like, oh no, I don't want to volunteer, but oh, I'll help out. I'll lend a hand. Like, that's fine. And that's still the same thing. So that really works. I think is using that language that you use is really helpful. And yeah, it's also a chance to highlight our amazing volunteers. And obviously part of Volunteer Week that Jez was talking about is kind of that following week. So we're looking forward to just kind of highlighting the amazing work that our volunteers do for our service as well. And another way of kind of making those connections, I suppose, because we obviously have groups in our library service and volunteers for those groups, but they might not necessarily know each other as well. So actually having this opportunity for them to come together and be able to talk and make those connections between volunteers is actually really important as well. And yeah, we just thought that was a great opportunity. Some of the things that we've got planned, I've got a little list. So we've got a choir planned, which is Makaton. So it's sign language and a choir at the same time. A dance showcase. We're looking at getting an ice cream van to give out some free ice cream. The buffet, of course, a photo booth, badge making, giant games for outside, a silent disco, kids crafts. We've even got Peter Rabbit coming to kind of open up the garden and stuff. So we've got some really lovely kind of crafts and activities for kids and then for adults as well. So we're hoping it's going to be a really lovely day. We've got use of our library and we've also got use of our community centre as well, and the garden for the community centre. So if it, comes to typical British weather, it might be that we are inside, but we're hoping that it'll be nice and sunny. And again, for our volunteers, we're looking to have a section where we are going to acknowledge them and thank them from all of our 3 services as well. Maybe give gifts and some little thank you cards and just kind of acknowledge them and, make it so that it could also be as well, like I said, that you are also kind of advertising that this is what you can do. So people might come along and not be particularly interested in volunteering, but actually they see how much we appreciate it and how much it makes a difference. And that might kind of just change someone's mind to go, actually, yeah, I'll lend a hand, sort of thing. And just one last point I'd like to highlight as well, is that actually I've tried to be very mindful when using our funding. We've had a lot of parcels, as some of my colleagues can probably attest to, being delivered. But, I've tried to be as mindful as I can when purchasing those things so that they can go on to be used for other things. So, for example, I've bought recently some like really large plastic kind of beach mats, and they're kind of going to go in the garden, and we're going to have kind of like picnics on them for the big lunch, and that's going to be perfect. But when that's done, I can then pass them on to our library assistants, and they can be used to protect the floor during like messy kids crafts and activities. So anything that I'm looking at, I'm also trying to go from a environmental frame of mind as well, and trying to kind of make it so that once it's had its purpose during the big lunch or the big help out, it can then go on to benefit the library service as well. So we use our volunteers to help run our events, but also this event can be seen as almost like a recruitment opportunity as well. But yeah, we just want people to know what we offer, what services we offer, and just get the community together and have some food and have a good time in the summer, and hopefully it'll be nice and sunny for us. So yeah, so thank you very much for listening and for inviting me along, and if anyone has any questions or anything, I'm happy to answer. So thank you.
Thanks, Emma. And again, that kind of touches on that showcasing and getting people through the door, and the kind of reaction that people have to the word volunteering, but actually helping out seems fine. It's really interesting, isn't it? Are there any questions? If you do have any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll pick them up at the end. So next up, we have Daniel Bernstein from Emergency Exit Arts, who was a partner on Historic England's Reimagining High Streets programme. So they have created a wonderful toolkit to support putting on community events in high streets and town centres, which we did share along with the agenda, and I'll put a link in the chat in a moment. So Daniel has come today to tell you more about this toolkit and share some lessons learned, successes and challenges from running community events and working with volunteers. Hi, Daniel.
Hi there, thanks for that, and thanks for inviting me. I'm also going to share some pictures because I'm sure you don't want to spend the next 10 minutes staring at my face. So let's just check that this works. I'm going to try and do it myself. Are you seeing a picture of a giant fox on a scooter?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about emergency exit arts before I get on to the toolkit. And I've been listening along the last, well, since the beginning of this session. So just to understanding now the context of the big help out and everything, which sounds amazing. So we're emergency exit arts. We are a charity. We have voluntary trustees and we work with volunteers as well. But most of the people that we work with are in paid positions. And we've been working with libraries for the sort of 43 years that we've been going. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some specific projects we've done with libraries, and I'm going to whiz through that as quickly as I can to move on to the toolkit that we've developed that you might find useful. So emergency exit arts, we also use the abbreviation enabling people, enhancing places and astonishing audiences. So we're an outdoor arts organisation. We get some funding from Arts Council, but otherwise we get commissions and partnerships, all sorts of different working, all sorts of models. So we love making great big, so everything we do is free for the public. We're known for our kind of big, large mechanical puppets. But we also do all sorts of processions and events, and often involving workshops with the community, which we love hosting. And we love setting in libraries because libraries just reach a great diversity and cross section of people. So they can be small scale processions all the way up to, we created this piece for the Queen's pageant a couple of years ago. So we created this spectacle down the Mall. We love training people in how to put on events in their community. This now seems to be going off without me clicking. So we've worked with projects engaging people with archives and in schools, and older people who we have come into our space in Greenwich on a regular basis. And then we take out pieces that involve libraries and storytelling. I'm moving on to the library's work now. This is our Story Collector, which is a show that goes around parks and collects different people's stories. Some of the specific work we've done with libraries, an example of this is our Cabinet of Curiosities, which we take into schools and libraries to encourage creative writing and reading. We've worked, this is an example, with Hillingdon Library, where we developed a story camp, which was a kind of mini stage and area that they took out to different parks. So we've almost taken the library services out, and they had authors and different library staff use it as a sort of base. And then also we worked with Greenwich Leisure Libraries a few years ago. I think it was the anniversary of Roald Dahl's birth, and we created a sort of a creative backdrop of all the celebration of Roald Dahl's books for the library staff to use within their libraries. We've worked with museums to create a kind of gathering seaside van, collecting people's memories. So I'm moving now on to the project we've just completed with Historic England, which was about encouraging more people into high streets, where we worked with 7 different partnerships, Heritage Action's own partnerships across the country, co-created with them. They made host puppets which represented their place. They involve the local communities, often in libraries, to create the character and as a sort of mascot for that place. Communities then got ready for the visitor, who was the giant fox on a scooter, So Farrer arrived, and there was a great big public celebration in the different places. And then as part of that project, so the impact it was both on people in advance, getting them more involved in activities on their high street and in their community, the impact of the people on the day, and then the impact, the sort of future impact. So we trained up community producers in each area and developed carnival troupes in each area, and each place has now got a host puppet. And then what we also, and that was the sort of the project in numbers. And then what we also created was this toolkit. So thanks for sending the link in advance. So we hope it's very easy to use. And the idea is it was aimed at putting on more events in your place. Now, whether that's in the high street, whether that's in the library, whether that's outside the library, really aimed at volunteers or people who haven't necessarily had, aren't necessarily professional event organisers, although there is an element of professionalism within the setup. This is the kind of contents page. We hope it's very simple to read. What there is also, and again, this is all downloadable from our website and from the Historic England website. It's all free. So we've got examples of different risk assessments. So we've done sort of basic templates that we obviously wouldn't want you to use exactly as they are, but you can use them and adapt them and progress them further. So we've done a kind of draft budget of what different scale events might be, an example of a press release, an example if you were doing freelance contracting of artists or different people that you might want to involve, photo consent forms, and again, this is aimed more at putting up, engaging artists to put on events, kind of artist brief example. So they're all templates that we're very happy for people to download and use and adapt. It'd be lovely to get a credit and a mention at some stage, but that's not what it's about. I won't go through page by page unless someone specifically requests me to, in terms of exactly what's in the toolkit. But there's elements of budgeting, fundraising, marketing, all of the licensing and the risks and the safety, accessibility and inclusion, contracting, programming, and then the kind of reporting and monitoring and evaluation you might want to do. Now, all of this might be, teaching your grandmother to suck eggs for a lot of people on this call, but again, it's something that you can pass on to other organisations that might be interested in getting involved.
Say, and I know you weren't talking, or
so those are the links. I can put them, or someone clever can put them in the chat. And if you want more information about Emergency Exit Arts or myself, please do feel free to get in touch. I'm now going to stop sharing. I haven't been able to see the chat or anything. I don't know if there's any specific questions or thoughts or comments, but I will now stop talking.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any questions? I don't think so. So thank you for sharing that. I love seeing the puppets. They're just absolutely wonderful. Some really, really brilliant pictures. And it's just interesting that that engagement in advance on the day and then in the future. I think that that's really important. So yes, we've whipped through the agenda today. So if we don't have any questions, then I will just say thank you to everyone for joining us today. And I hope this has inspired some of you to get involved in the Big Help Out, and given you some inspiration for what you can do in libraries, and some learning on running events in your community. So thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.